The Tears of Humanity, Part 1. In the beginning there was only one voice of life that ever was created. And it said, I need eat, I need drink, I need life. And life was everywhere. And it met the need. There was no thought, just action, reaction, and life grew. It continued to grow. And life spread throughout the world in many forms and fashions. But as it grew, it became more complex. And there come to a point that ones that would feed were also being fed upon. This is what we refer to as the predator-prey. Sometimes you get the bear, and sometimes the bear gets you. This is the story of life at this point now. But when that started happening, when life started requiring the predator-prey aspect, it required decisions. It required, is it worth the risk? Which to determine that, you had to turn, you had to observe, you had to see what was around. You had to pay attention. Because without that, you are prey. Even though you think you are hunting, you are the one that's being hunted. And this was life in the oceans and everywhere. And life continued to develop. But there finally came to a point in this thinking, in this decision-making process, a second voice is finally heard. I want this. I have preference. I have emotion. I think, but I feel. I like that. I want this. I don't like that. You make me mad. Emotions, love, fear, hate, disrespect, power, overdrive, maybe from tier 1. That first voice of I need. That's all that voice is, I need. Its need must be met. But now, an I want voice, an I want preference. How did this come about? Because of the predator-prey. You became decision-making. And in that decision-making, you by very definition must make preference. If not, it would always be random. There is no behavioral pattern. Therefore, requirements of life will require a pattern. Now we have preference, we have like, we have dislike, we have love, we have jealousy, we have deceit, we have stealing. We have these things to meet our want and not get in trouble. Always risk analysis, always risk management taking, even in the primate world. You see it all the time. You see it in humanities all the time. But it's this relationship of how we desire the I want and our I need. And this is the foundation of free will. This is the foundation of what made humans humans. It really started developing some of the advanced mammals. For example, you have your pet domesticated dog. It has preference. A perfect example is you put your food out, the dog food out, it goes to eat it. If it was operating just on a need, it would eat this food. But this dog will walk over, look at the food, and sometimes it will walk into the kitchen, look up at a cabinet where it knows what its food is, or the treat is, and bark and announce to you that it wants what's in the cabinet, not what's in the bowl. It is giving you a preference. And in some cases, if you say no to them, they will get upset because they have adapted into your cultural life. They have become part of your pack, or you've become part of their pack. But the behavior change and learning how to beg and all these processes are learned by the domesticated animal. So it's easily can interact with us. But let's go to the outside world. Even in the forest, the woods, a bear will walk out of its way for miles sometimes because it has a sweet tooth and wants honeycomb. Now it could eat other things as it wanted to, but it wants sweet honeycomb. And it'll take that honeycomb and it will take it to the water with it and eat it there. Mainly I agree because eating a lot of honey makes you very thirsty and you wind up wanting to drink. But more often than not, that's when the bear washes his face and paws with that. If not, the bugs and the flies and the bees constantly hound him for days on end after eating the honey. But even he went for preference. He went out of his way to meet that want and desire. As humanity, we grow as a child. Our small children, as we grow in, now we go and transition from the animal part and the transition of how do humans develop. Now when humans are first born, that 1 through 12, even back through almost 1 through 18 months, that child knows no difference of an I want or an I need. All it has is one thing: I need, and I need it now. It wants immediate gratification, suckling, whatever, but this is the development and the beginning and the process. You learn patience. Then there's a bonding process that takes place with mammals is very important, because it's in that process is that trust will develop. I am your guardian, I am your protector, I am your feeder, I'm your provider for a short period of time. And after that short period of time, you may go out on your own or you may stay part of the pack, depending on what the mammal culture is. But as for humans, we are a social creature, so we are a family unit, so we are a group that stays together. We are, in some ways, pack-oriented, and we feed off each other's necessity. We have pecking orders, we have orders of chain of command. Our structure, whether it's a small, even if it's 3 of us, there's a leader of the pack, or there's 100 of us, there's a leader of the pack. This is a cultural phenomenon that we do as a social thing. But how do we get this social thing together? How do we operate within it? How do we learn to operate within those systems? This is what we're going to cover now. As we develop in our thing for I want and I need, the first thing that develops as a child is to meet its needs. I need this, I need that. So it learns how to walk, it learns how to talk, to feed itself, to go to the bathroom, to ask for things, to communicate. You see the great graduation at 6, 7 years old. Mommy, mommy, look at me, I can do a cartwheel. I have mastered the physical skills of communicating what my needs and wants are and interacting with a group. I have learned to talk, I have learned to interact, and I just need to progress and develop those skills greater. At 7 through 14 is the transitionary point. This is one of the hardest times in humans' life. This is where you learn the voice of I want. You have preference, you have desire. You want to start controlling your own destiny. You want to learn the word no. You want to have your life, not just the life that the family unit is and you are part of it. Now you want to establish a piece of your life. You are wanting to establish guidelines. You are wanting, and you are wanting. But there still must be needs. This is where parents and everything frequently will give chores to their children. They will say things like, you want breakfast, you make your bed. You tie every want to a need. If not, needs and wants are never bonded together, nor can they put reference, and then can you have prioritization, because you cannot put them together. But they must be put together. Every want should be connected to a need. So in the morning you say, you kids get up, get dressed, make sure you make the breads if you want breakfast. They'll make the bed, they come eat breakfast. You have tied a want into a need. But they may be 2 needs, but you are establishing patterns of behavior. You are establishing consequences. You are establishing, if you do this, then this will happen. These are very important skills that must be able, but this is going to be the trust foundation of how you build your life. These are very important things to develop, what the I want is and what the need and the cost is to get that I want. Always there is a cost, and you need to learn what that cost is. Only then can you determine whether or not you can afford to pay the price of the wants and the desires that you're looking for. Now with this in mind, now you develop these wants and things. We go through the tween years, and anybody that's had children can sure understand the tween years and how they develop and see how this I want and desire is breaking out. Now hopefully in this time you have learned that I want and I need are 2 different things. I need prioritize always more important than an I want. An I want is a desire of self. I need is a necessity of survival. And you do not need to lie to yourself and say, this want is a need. If you've learned properly through your childhood of 7 through 14, you will know the difference. Hopefully. Now let's go through stage 14 through 21 of human development. This is that very transitional year. This is where we take how we learn to do our I want and I need, and we start bartering it with other people, high school, our friends, because they have an I want and an I need, and they're trying to acquire theirs. So you are out there seeking, how do you make it? You are going to run into some people who their I want and I need is always more important than yours. In fact, I hate to say it, but 80% of all humanity operate on something referred to as Tier 2, which is now what we are going to start talking about here very shortly. As this development bartering system comes in, it graduates up into tiers. You're going to be always, beginning as a child, you're operating in a Tier 2 operation. A Tier 2 has fundamental rules of conduct that all Tier 2s operate by. First operation is you are driven by fear of retribution. You don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to get caught. You don't want to face the consequences. You're driven by rewards and no rewards. This is, you try to always measure your consequences, whether you want to do it or not. It's fear of retribution. We have it in our schools. We have it in the way our structures is at home. It's even the foundation of most religions, of heaven, hell, the damnation, salvation. It's reward. Guilt, emotional mechanisms are being used. Your goal is to seek fair barter. But there's a whole bunch of people that believe in the thing, I'm the one that gets the big end of the stick. I don't get the dirty end of the stick. I get the big piece. My I want and I need is more important than yours. Sad to say, but Tier 2 culture determines fear of retribution, and my I want and I need is more important than yours. Always. Now this is graduated to the most severe, the lowest level, what we call the carnal individual of humanity, is what we might determine some of the lowest levels of humanity in regards, because it has no moral construct whatsoever. These are the individuals that will steal, rob, murder, steal, sell your eyes to somebody. There is no mercy. You are a thing, and you are a thing to be used. You are no more than a paper plate to these individuals. They have no moral construct at all. They interact with society, whatever they want and I need, it's the exact same thing, exact same moment, right at the top, right at that moment. There's no thought, decision, no analysis, there's nothing. It's like a rabid dog. Now the next lowest level in for those humanities that we can see, sadly, is what we call the active manipulator. In other words, you will comply or I will kill you. I will rip your throat out. The license of threat dictators, those that use physical power and intimidation. Either you do it or your family's going to suffer. I use physical threats. I use violence against you. I intimidate you and force you to physically suppress yourself to my I want and I need. And if you don't, the family will pay consequences. You will submit to my I want, I need. It's more important than yours or anybody else's. And this is a cultural derivative that you'll see at the lower end. The next step up in there is the passive manipulator. This is the Machiavellian. This is the one that operates behind the scenes. This is the one that lies, deceits, turns people against each other. They'll say one thing to this person, manipulate them so they go to war against each other. These are the master manipulators of keeping conflict and organizations and groups apart, forcing them to compete against themselves, thus taking advantage and profit with the conflict and the mechanisms that's going on. They thrive on chaos. They're all based on the emotional aspect of humanity and their desire to control it. My I want and I need is more important than yours, anybody's. It is mine to control. And this is much of humanity's tier 2 philosophy. Then you can graduate up as what we call those people that go into what we now call the persuaded. And the persuaded is those that sit there and they don't exhibit that violence. They're trying to get fair barter. But they are kind of shady at the times. They will forgive themselves. They judge other people and they don't judge themselves, shall we say. They will sit there and see themselves in a light of not doing these things, but they are the ones that are doing it. This is where we get the old saying, the calling the kettle black. These are where we get these old sayings. There's your behavior is my behavior. You're projecting in psychology, all these things. And then your next group is the forgivers. These are the ones that my life is enough. I'm struggling for my I want and I need. And you can't prioritize. You can't say no to yourself. This is the great transition. Free will. This is the thing that makes humanity humanity. At this point right now, you have an I want and I need, and you are struggling to meet that with fair barter with this person or that person to acquire your I want and I need. But there's people out there that are trying to force and dominate their I want I need over yours. So you seek fair barter. You want to be able to go, whether I'm trading something for economics, relationships, emotional support, time, food, anything I'm sharing, I seek fair barter. I will give fairly to you and you give fairly to me. We don't take from each other. We are striving for an equality and a sharing of each other for our experience. This is that motion, that moment that we strive for fair barter. Unless we are not the one that wants fair barter. We're the one where my I want and I need is more important than yours. If you start seeking fair barter, this is what we call transition. You are now transitioning into what we refer to as Tier 3. Now Tier 3's philosophy says, I have an I want and an I need, and you have an I want and an I need. And I respect your I want and I need. And for no reason whatsoever do I have a right to call upon your I want and I need, and you say that you have an obligation to it. I can ask you freely of it, and you can decide freely to say yes or no, because you determine your I want and I need. And it is respected by all others. They have no right to put their desire and want over you and call it justice or any other name. You have that ability. That is Tier 3. That is where I share or I do not wish to share. Treat your neighbor as thy brother would be a Christian philosophy. They would say that for that. Is to be able to acquire that Tier 3. And Tier 3 is not driven by fear of retribution now. Tier 3 is driven by something we refer to as conviction. We now have developed a moral code that says, I will not do that. I will do this, but I will not do that. And you cannot conceive or comprehend how people can do something because they operate on a Tier 2 level of fear of retribution, and you are operating at a level of conviction. You cannot understand how that behavior can take place. It is beyond your ability to conceive, literally. This is a Tier 3 behavioral pattern because of their seeking of the fair barter and seeking of this just fairness to it. And in that trust and fairness, it develops a social trust of well-being. And in this well-being, we open ourselves up to more communications, we open ourselves up to love, we open to more intimacy and contacts. It increases the human experience. And as you develop on these layers to Tier 4 and other ones, as the process goes by, this is the process of humanity. Today I was basically wanting to talk to you about what Tier 2 does. Tier 2 is how it's driven by my I want and I need is more important than yours. But why people at some aspects of their Tier 2 don't operate the same as what some of the ones that are in transition, those that would be, say for example, in the active manipulation and domination. You get the active dominator, then it's life, death, blood, and fear of death, and you're operating on that mode. But when you start getting into the point of what we call the forgiveness mode, don't judge me. This is where you find Alcoholics Anonymous, Drug Anonymous, a lot of the organizations to fall for faith. This is where you find that layer going in right before you go in to transition, is where, don't judge me for what I was. I say I accept the fact for what I was. Please try to help me become the person I'm trying to become today. This is growth. And as long as you cling to my I want and I need is more important than yours or anybody else's, as long as you hold on to that, then you in your ways will never be able to give true fair barter. You'll always look for that edge. You'll always look for that angle. And in that loss you lose something of honesty and respect that you can give to other people that it's hard to find anymore. But it's something we all need to be striving for. Thank you for part 1.